What's good, Internet? Welcome to E3 2017. We are here. There are people. Patrick just dropped his glasses.
Fine, I'm fine.
We're fine. Doors just opened. It is like noon-ish.
Yeah.
We just got back from the Devolver lot. Historically, Devolver does not come to E3 so much as set up
antagonistic relationship with E3. Goes back to Gamecock, Gathering Developers.
Right.
If you go look up some Wikipedia pages, you will see
you search
over
Mike
the years,
Wilson into Twitter.
Careful with that.
Not into Twitter, into Wiki. Yeah, you be careful. And so we were over there and we just saw a few things. We saw some stuff that I've wanted to see for a while.
Yeah.
Absolver was one that for a year people have been saying you have to go see Absolver. Austin, you like Dark Souls, you like really unique art styles. Yeah. You have to go see Absolver.
You love martial arts.
You love martial arts. I'm a big martial arts fan.
People know that about you.
You know,
Top 10 things about Austin Walker. It's like martial arts.
Top 10 Austin Walker betrayals. So we saw Absolver. Absolver is a multiplayer kind of Dark Souls-esque in terms of the combat. Very lock on. You have very precise action. Very every hit counts. Every
that animation priority is sort of like fighting
stuff,
but like with like a deep level of customization for like individual attacks, fighting stances.
Yes.
I think they just announced the one that we played
Drunken
at the end,
Master
the Drunken Master style.
Right, totally. It's like very Jackie Chan, like, whoa, you're getting like over here, and then like you come up with like a quick hit.
But they were like,
I'm a martial arts master.
Totally. Stop them. You're making me feel bad.
Well, I beat you, so I made you feel bad earlier too. It's a really cool game, and the thing that I like the most is this notion of customization. So a thing that I love about the Dark Souls games and games that are inspired by Dark Souls is, oh, what's this move set for this weapon?
Yes.
I learned this overhand sword, this broadsword, combos versus this maces. And in this, you're developing your own. You go into a menu and build out like a set of chain hookup like commands that can flow from one stance to another stance.
Maybe you start with like a high jab and then you go to like a low kick. Right. But you're not committed to that. You can just go and like, hey, that's not working for these enemies.
Exactly.
I'm gonna switch that up.
So I built one in the single player part of the demo, or the kind of the guided demo that I did, where it ended with this like heavy guard break kick, and it changed from that stance to a new stance, and that stance opened with a really heavy attack. So I knew they'd be guard broken by the time I got in for that next new heavy.
Yeah, it's a lot of like recognizing which stance you want to be in. You can start in one stance and end in another, but then you can manually switch to another stance.
It's very head gamesy.
And it's a lot of fists. Like you can summon weapons, but those are like special power-ups. But it gives you like, there's a durability to it, and it makes you ultra powerful for a brief period of time.
A little bit.
But if you summon that weapon, then you can't use your other power-ups until
which are things like doing an AoE like earthquake stun.
Or health.
Or healing. Which
could have used some of that health.
You could have used some of that. I did use the earthquake to knock you off a cliff.
Do you
feel in danger near this?
I do.
Okay. I'll try not to knock you.
Don't use your area of effect.
No, I'll pull my weapon instead. It's really cool, and the art design is gorgeous. It reminds me of what's the team from South America, I want to say from Argentina, that did Xenoclash.
Oh, Ace Team.
Ace Team. They remind me vaguely of an Ace Team
design.
But
not so much of a nightmare.
It's a little.
Ace Team seems like you went on like a bad trip,
this
and
is
then woke up in a shitty world.
Yes, it's also like a clockwork world of the Dark Souls 1 variety. See that tower in the distance? At some point, you'll wind up in that weird tower.
What I appreciate about the demo is like when I've seen trailers like this before, and they pitch it like, oh, it's an online combat game. That, like, if it's just an online combat game where I'm doing PvP all the time, that didn't sound super interesting to me. And instead, what you discover in this, like, there's checkpoints. You can go off in your own. There's sort of a story to follow. It's like pretty light. There is like direction and a context that is more than just an arena fight. Like, if it was just an arena fight with a lot of customizability, that's not enough for me.
Whereas this had the thing of like, okay, I'm gonna roll into this space, and this guy is like, there's mini bosses here, and he's like way more health than most enemies, way more damage, does way more damage. And I was playing with a co-op partner, and there's like friendly fire is on. I definitely caught him with an elbow a couple of times.
There's friendly fire, and then you can, at any time, if you run into an actual other player, you can choose to cooperate with them or fight, and you can communicate to that with like different gestures. And then also, even if you're not cooperating with someone, and like that's communicated in the UI, it's like we are cooperating, we are fighting. If you are fighting someone, or you see someone in a scramble and they die, you can choose to revive them, even if you're not cooperating with them.
Come back up, that was a good duel. That was a good duel that we just had.
But
come back up and let's work together.
Hey, don't go back to the checkpoint.
So that was
we should
really
play
cool.
together.
So it was Absolver.
Yep.
We also saw Minute, which is a game by a bunch of people who have good, like, they ship good
one
stuff.
designer, Horizon Zero
Zero
Dawn,
Dawn,
another designer that you worked
Ridiculous
with.
Fishing.
A lot of Ridiculous Fishing, Nuclear Throne.
Nuclear Throne also, right.
It's from a game jam
And, like,
from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was
for
the Adventure Time game jam. Apparently, they won a crossbow. Apparently for this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just take them at their
word. The word was from his crossbow smith. Which
Hey,
I don't think that's the word for people who
go on
make
Yelp,
crossbows.
do some searches.
Yeah. And the thing that's cool about that is it's sort of like an adventure game that you need to find things in this open world. It's black and white, top-down view, and you go off and wander like, okay, well, I don't have anything. And like you wander around, oh, you got a sword. Cool, I got the sword. And then you notice there's been a clock ticking down the whole time. It hits 0, you die, you start back up in your house again, but now you go outside and that sword that you found before is now like in the inventory system
like
next
items,
to your...
like certain objectives,
Right.
restart that clock. And so there's a
Exactly.
persistence even though you're largely going out from the same area. Although as we discovered at the end of the demo, you can then find like checkpoints, like
You found a new
have
house.
starting area.
In this trailer now instead of being in this
It's
like fantasy house.
It's like really goofy and like leads to a lot of improvisation and like guesswork.
Yeah,
and
so like a thing I happened to find was like a gardening. What do you call those things? Like a bucket? Like a gardening bucket.
Like a bucket with a. There's a word for that.
Pail?
No one tell us.
No one tell us. Don't tell us. We found one of those, filled it with water.
We dumped some water.
And we're like, okay,
you were committed to this.
I was.
You were like, hey, look at that plant. I'm going to pour some water over it.
I was like,
oh,
hey.
but you died again.
It started
Maybe
to
go
sprout.
pour some more water.
So I poured more water after my next death. I was like, huh, it grew again, but if I keep watering it, it doesn't do it. So I hit a button that's just like, just kill me again. Let me start over. Run back over, put the water in the plant, it sprouts a heart, I get extra life. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, this is a little thing that I could have not seen at all in that demo. That wasn't a necessary part of the demo, but it was a sort of like cool interaction that encourages you to keep retrying things. And it's just like really charming. The music is really quaint.
It's one of those games that when I first saw it, I was like, oh, like another one of these, like, you know, throwback Game Boy dithering art style. I was like, I usually like those games, but like, what is this? But it was like it actually reminded me of. I love Half Minute Hero.
Yes, totally.
So like this but like a miniaturized, like Half Minute Hero. I didn't need 25 hours or whatever it was to beat that game.
They said 2 to 3 hours.
Like you could sit
out
down
the sheer.
And I bet playing with friends would be
a joy.
Like,
just like
really
go do
fun.
this bullshit and like no, shut up.
Try. Like,
but the fact that you only live a minute means you're gonna try it. That's the thing that I like about it. It's like, hey, I may as well try the thing with this gardening bucket because
everything's so close. You don't feel frustrated when you start over again. It's like let's go try and explore down around that corner.
Exactly. Last thing I saw was a game called Swords of Ditto, which is another Zelda-inspired SNES style, Link's Awakening style.
Okay.
I know Link's Awakening was on the Game Boy Advance, or just the Game Boy Color.
I think
just
it was
original
Game Boy Color Enhanced.
You're right, it was.
It got some color support. If
you land on a beach, and then you wander into a town, and it's a procedurally generated like Zelda-style game.
Oh, interesting.
In which the goal is to go into a bunch of dungeons, get gadgets, which are basically like special items in Zelda. Like one of them is like a record that you could throw, and it was like a boomerang. And like it
2D art style?
2D art style, top down. Looks like very pretty art style. Again, it has like an Adventure Time vibe.
Right.
Which is something to say about Devolver in general. A lot of the games we played didn't fit the traditional Devolver 80s throwback, gritty,
hardcore
bloody,
action,
gore,
Serious Sam,
synth
like,
heavy. Yeah, I'm glad to see them breaking out of that aesthetic. That aesthetic has served them well, but I want to see them do different stuff. Publish games that don't just fit that same stereotype. And so in this, you go to the dungeon, you get the gadget, and then you finish the dungeon. Dungeons are procedurally generated. The open world is procedurally generated. And then you go to the final boss, and that requires the gadgets that you got from the dungeons that are pulled from. So the record like catches fire if you throw it over fire, then the fire can hit torches which will open doors or whatever, right? And the thing that was really cool about it is, let's say you die against the last boss. It's a proc-gen run-based game, so there's the hero's grave is somewhere. And the next time that you start the new game, you wander into town and there's a statue of your old hero there.
Oh, that's good.
And you get that person's sword,
So is it like taking the idea like Link as a generational hero?
Exactly.
Man,
very
so this
literally.
world is suffering.
It's bad. And so if you
30
win,
years for a new hero.
if you win, the world gets lighter. This is what we're told anyway. I didn't see this happen. But,
so it's like
you
doing this over
and
over.
Yes, you've dealt a blow to the darkness here, but you haven't won. There is going to be an end game at which you've pushed it far enough into the light and you've saved them. But it's kind of like things are going to continue to evolve. Characters who previously were too scared to come out into the world might find their way out and say, hey, can you go do this side quest for me?
That's cool.
And I'm like, okay, that's a different take on it from the Rogue Legacy style. You're just powering up. The world state is changing, and that's what you're going to go check out.
And then also like narratively justifies like why things are a little bit different
Totally,
every time.
totally. So we saw Absolver, we saw Minute, we saw Sword of Ditto. I think that's all I saw.
That's all I saw. I saw very briefly a game whose name, unfortunately, I can't remember, but it's the concept is that it's a split screen and you're controlling two different sort of like shooter games at once. One is like a Galaga style, like you're shooting ships that are coming in and grabbing upgrades. The other one is more of like a Geometry Wars, like you're going on this big environment. It gave me a headache.
I saw the headache develop in your head as I was watching it.
I played twice and we had to leave and I was like, I don't know if my head can take more
I
of
may
this.
be like, Patrick, we have to go to save you. Not to save you. That game seemed cool as hell. All right, so that's going to do it for us for this video. We'll be back. YouTube.com/WaypointVice, waypoint.vice.com, Twitter.com/Waypoint, Facebook.com/WaypointVice. Keep it tuned. Peace.